Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Moment podcast. I am your host, Regine Bow. And for my new listeners, thank you for joining. And of course, I hope that you are able to share this video with friends and family or anyone that you think can resonate with the video. For my old listeners, welcome back. And it's a blessing and an honor to be putting content in this video out for you. Yes, I said video. So if you're listening on audio right now, you can listen to the Breaking Moment podcast on YouTube. That's the one update I wanted to share. Or you can also listen to it in video on YouTube as well. I'm going to work out and see how I can get it on Spotify. But right now, the Breaking Moment podcast is on YouTube and there's video. So I wanted to share that. I also wanted to say this is the month of me creating the Breaking Moment podcast, or publishing the Breaking Moment podcast. I published it last October. So if you've been listening since October, thank you. If you are a new listener, thank you. It has been a journey. I have learned a lot. I have messed up a lot. I have cried a lot. It's been a lot. But I am blessed to be able to do what I do. A little bit about me. For my new listeners, I am Regine. As I said earlier, I am a master level social worker, and I'm just here to help anyone that wants help, that wants to learn, that wants to grow, that is struggling, that feels like they're alone, that feels like they can't make it another day. Those that are suicidal, those that are hopeless, those that are bitter, those that are jealous, whatever you are, you might even be happy. Whatever you're feeling, I just want to help anyone and everyone that wants to listen, to let them know that they're not alone in this journey called life. They're not alone in the tough times. They're not alone in the good times, because God is with us all. And, the Breaking Moment podcast came when I was at one of the darkest times of my life, and I'll get more into depth about it. But, it was in those moments that when I was able to come out, I said, I'm going to help others. I've always had a passion to help others, but it was when I went through the roughest time and it felt like I was alone that I said, I want to help others not feel that way. Because I think in moments like that, it's important to find a community where we feel that we're not alone, that we feel heard, that we feel that there's hope. Because if we don't, who knows what can happen? That dark hole gets darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. So that's a little bit about me and my channel. And I'm going to get started in today's episode. So today I wanted to talk about, especially because, we're starting a new season. It's been a year. I wanted to talk a little bit about the breaking moment and my description about what it is. And I want to tie a verse into it. And, I want to also talk about moving forward, because for my listeners that have been listening for a year, we might have made huge steps forward, milestones. But sometimes we get in that point in our growth where it's like, okay, hold on a minute. I'm kind of missing what I used to have. I'm missing those friends. I'm missing that relationship. I'm missing the old me, the old things, which is normal. So I want to talk a little bit about moving forward. So today we will talk about what it means to move forward, and how constantly looking back, can prevent our growth and our healing journey. I want to talk about some steps to move forward, and of course, finish with some scripture verses, okay? So before we get into that, the description in my podcast, I talk about how I had to change my old patterns because they were no longer serving me, because a new me was forming. And that, that's a hard thing to grasp. If you're anything like me, I don't like change. And the way I've done things is the way I want to keep doing things. For the most part. That saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's kind of me. Like, I don't really like change. Someone that struggles with anxiety, I don't like change at all. But when I was having my break-in moment, I realized that what Regine was doing, she couldn't do anymore. And that could be you right now. You know, you could be listening. You could be on this journey and realize you already realized that you needed to do that. But you could be listening and saying, this ain't working. This job ain't working. The people I'm around, they're no longer serving me. What I'm doing isn't working anymore. Putting everyone above myself ain't working anymore. Being a workaholic ain't working anymore. These drinks aren't working anymore. This weed ain't working anymore. You could be just pondering right now of all the things that aren't working. And I'm here to say it's okay. And it is scary because any change that us humans go through is scary because we like familiarity. I know I do. I want you to reflect right now. Is that you? Are you struggling with changing because it's comfortable, but deep down you know that something needs to change so that the new you can come out, so that you can find the peace that you've been looking for, so that you can have joy? I want you to just take a minute and just ponder. Ponder what... Sorry, guys, my headphones. But I want you to just ponder your life. And I hope after this episode that'll help. But there's something about actually realizing. It's different when it's like, but realizing that something needs to change. And I realized it when I went from being a workaholic, being a people pleaser, being a perfectionist. Altogether wasn't working. I probably had one of the most successful years the year I had my breaking moment. I made the dean's list. I got the boyfriend. I, was in a happy relationship. I played softball and I made All-American second team, which has been a dream of mine. That means for all of Division II softball, out of all Division II softball, I got second team All-American. And I got this thing called the Golden Shoe Spike Award. And what that means is out of all D2 softball, I had the most stolen bases. And that's a big accomplishment, something that I wanted for a long time. But with that high of reaching everything became the lowest time that I ever had. I cried probably every day. I cried. My anxiety was terrible. I had panic attacks, anxiety attacks. I couldn't sleep. Eating was hard. All that kept me going was just, obviously praying, but also just reaching out to my support system. And even then, I just felt so alone because it just... Sorry about that. Even then, I just felt so alone in this journey, which is why I created this. But it wasn't until I prayed and I sought God and I actually went to therapy, which those that know was very hard for me, especially, in my Black communities, it's hard to just say, hey, I'm going to go to therapy because then everybody thinks, what is everyone going to think is what went through my head. I thought I was crazy and this and that. I thought so many things about what other people would think. But deep down, it didn't matter. It never matters, right? If my mental health is at risk, I shouldn't matter if people think I'm weird to go to therapy. It shouldn't matter if people think I'm crazy or whatever the stigmas is with therapy and mental health. At that moment, I needed help. I needed help more than my support system. So I sought it out. I had a therapist. I was reaching out to my pastor weekly. So I was getting spiritual therapy. I was getting mental health therapy. I was calling my mom and my boyfriend like every day. It was a really, really, really hard time. And even then, it was still hard. So I'm getting off track. But what happened was, the breaking moment, it calls it interruption. So what Regine did was go. Like, you could ask anyone that knows me. I just went. I played 5 sports in And high school, I did basketball. So I just was always going. I went from cross country practice to field hockey practice in one season. I had basketball by itself, but even then I was playing travel ball. So I was going from basketball to travel ball practice. And in the spring, I did track, softball, and travel ball. So I was always on the go, right? And then I went and played college ball. And we know that college, you wake up, you go to practice, you go to class, you go to class, you go to practice, you got to do homework, and the cycle continues. And that's only if you don't work. You got to find work time in there. I say that to say my life was very busy, and that could be you. You could have a life that you literally have no time to sit and eat, to sit and think, to sit and reflect, to sit and pray. Like, it's crazy how when something's so familiar to you, you don't even see it as like a problem or like it's just a norm. But it wasn't until I had the break-in moment when there was an interruption in my life, right? Boom. I had to change my old patterns because they were no longer serving the person that God was creating me to be. So with that it caused me to slow down, which was very uncomfortable, right? But it led me to where I am today, right? It led me to actually take walks, to actually have self-care. Have you heard of that word before? Self-care? Because before now, I heard of it, but I didn't understand it because I didn't have self-care. I got to take care of everyone else's care. Come on. How many of us are like that? Like, it's like, nope. I got to make sure they're happy first. Oh, now I got to make sure they're happy. Oh, I got to make sure work's good. I got to make sure the kids are good. Husband's good. Boyfriend's good. Okay, they're good. Oh, the dog's not okay. Let me make sure the dog's okay. And then you just constantly, pour into other people. That's my story. But I learned self-care. I learned that it's okay that I take care of myself too. And I learned that if I don't take care of myself, then I can't take care of anyone else. Because at the end of the day, if I have a cup, right, and I pour it out to everyone else, eventually it's going to run dry. When it runs dry, then you have nothing else to pour. So what I learned is, and look at this. I have a cup right here. If you have this cup and there's nothing in it, who else can you pour to? So I learned that in order for me to even pour to the people I love, for me to even pour to you guys, for me to even pour as a family-based therapist, right? I have to make sure my cup is full. And by making sure my cup is full, that's doing things that I enjoy. And everyone's different what they enjoy. Some people like walks, some people like food, some people like traveling. It depends, but we have to make sure we're good. So I wanted to tie in the verse that's going to go with that. That's my description. I mean, I have other stuff that I say in my description when you click on the podcast, but that part I wanted to highlight because as I'm reflecting on what I was going to say on this episode, I thought of this verse. I thought of the verse Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 43, verse 18 through 21. And I'll be reading from the English Standard Version. And it reads, "Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I am doing a new thing. It springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The wild beasts will honor me, the jackals and the ostriches, for I give water in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, to give drink to my chosen people, the people whom I formed for myself, that they might declare my praise." So in that verse, the beginning, it says, "Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of the old," right? So I realized that as I'm transitioning, as I had my break-in moment, I had to unlearn the old things. I had to forget the former things because in order to do what I'm doing now, I couldn't have been who I was. I could have not ran myself on E like I did and still be able to be sane and still be able to be who God needed me to be now. So it's hard to forget the old, but we have to remember that God's doing a new thing. And we can rejoice in that because that new thing, even though it doesn't feel like it right now, I want to say it doesn't feel like it right now because when I was in it, it was like, no, God, no, no. Why is this happening? Why me? Why? You might be saying that now. Why? It's because the person that God needs you to be, you have to unlearn. Think about all we've learned. I don't know however old you are. Think about all you've learned over the years. I know over the 20 look at me saying I'm 20. Over the 25 years that I've been alive, I had to unlearn a lot of things that I learned when I was young because that's not who God needs me to be right now. You know, we're constantly growing and developing in life, and we have to unlearn things so that when God calls us to different places in our lives, right? We have to be ready for them, but God's going to take us through a season where, we unlearn those things. So it says, remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old, because he's doing a new thing. It's going to spring us forth. And I like this part. It said the other part where it talks about he will make a way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. We know the desert is dry, but what that's saying is he's a miraculous God. So even when you're like, God, I don't know how you put this vision in my mind, but my old self keeps coming back. We have to get in his word and figure out what can we learn, right? What does God need us to know right now so that we could be the person he called us to be? And guess what? If he's called you to it, he's going to help you through it, right? He's going to help you get to where you need to be. He's miraculous, right? He makes a way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. The wild beasts will honor him, the jackals and the ostriches, for he gives water in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. He gives drink to his chosen people. So I say all that to say, with the description, with the sermon, I just wanted you guys to remember, the why, because it's so easy to get in it and be like, why am I even here? Right? Because that old stuff, that's the tactic of the enemy. He's going to remind us, oh, remember when you used to go to that, remember you used to go out and you used to have a good time with your girls, and remember you used to do this, and remember that relationship, remember that. And then our mind starts to go back because, we did enjoy it at one point, but who God calls us to be now, we can't be that person. So when those thoughts come to your head of the old and, oh, I miss it, it's normal for one. I want to say that that's normal. We're human. But I want you to remember that God is doing a new thing. And new thing requires growth, requires us to unlearn the old. If we think about, if we have something like a vase, a jar, anything, and we fill it all the way up, right? If we fill it all the way up and then we want to add more stuff, into this jar, where's it going to fit? So I think that we have to forget and we have to not keep taking ourselves back to the past so that we can make room for what God is putting in us now. I'm not even going to sit here and lie. Like, I have days where I just miss the old me. I miss playing the sports. I miss the friendships. I miss old relationships. But then I realized that if I didn't let those things go, I wouldn't be who I am. Because, God's not going to take stuff away from us that's serving us, right? If it's going to serve us to where God's called us, then he's going to keep it there. But if it's no longer serving, and things in this, let me say, something can serve you in one season and not serve you in the next. I'm learning that. I thought, like, I'm a person that I don't like letting people go. I didn't like letting people go. That's a whole nother story. I thought that if you're a friend with someone or your relationship, it's got to work. But I realized that there are seasons. There's people that are seasons. There's things that are seasons. There's jobs that are seasons, because we're constantly growing to be the people that God needs us to be in different seasons. So, and I want you just to know that God is miraculous. So don't sit and say, but how? He's going to find a way. I never forget in my dorm room crying. I mean, crying every day. And let me put this into perspective. This was my senior year. And a lot of us think, senior year of college, that's going to be the best time. That was probably one of my worst years. Point blank period. And I don't know if people knew, because I'm a person that also didn't like people in my business. So I would be the one that was crying in a room, but show up to softball practice and still hit and still run and still do what I need to do, and then go back to my room crying. Right? But God was with me the whole time. And as I was crying and I'm saying, why? Why me? Why? God knew that in order for me to get the blessing, in order for me to see the life that he has for me, and that's a whole nother sermon, is, God's thoughts are our thoughts. God's plans are our plans. So the way I thought things need to be, the friends I thought I needed, the relationship I thought I needed, the places I thought I needed to be, didn't align up to where God wanted me to be. And because of that, I had to let go and trust the new things he was doing. And it was uncomfortable. It was sad. It was heartbreaking. It was depressing. I went through all the stages of grief. I did, and I still do. But God sees what we can't see. We see right here, right now, in our past, but God sees what we're going to be. So I don't want us to stay in our past. I don't want us to stay in our past, because if we keep looking behind us, right, how can we see what's in front? I think that's why God put that in there. And he's miraculous, so he's going to help you find a way. That vision that seems too big, he's going to help you get through it. Guys, I never thought I'd create a podcast. I was so insecure. I had low confidence, self-confidence, self-esteem, all of it, honestly. Whether people thought I did or not, I did. I did not. But God showed me otherwise. He showed me that I am called. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I am chosen. I have a voice. I'm loved. And everything's going to be okay. He showed me so much that this is his doing, not mine. I have to say it. Like, I would have never thought. I've always been that athlete type of girl. I would have never thought I would have created a podcast, let alone now do video and put my face out there for y'all. But we here, okay? So yeah, like God knows he's doing a new thing. Trust it. If you're having a breaking moment where there's an interruption in your life, right? Because a change needs to occur. So there's a difference between understanding it, like, I need to change, but a change needs to occur. That means something you need to do. Like, something I needed to do at the time was therapy. Therapy helped me to process why I was feeling the way I was feeling, helped me to figure out what steps I can go, helped me to figure out, some of my traumas from when I was younger that were playing a factor now. It helped me to unload. It helped me to grow. It helped me so many times. But that's something I had to do. That was the change that needed to occur. One of the changes is to seek outside help so that I can figure out how to move forward. And then that helped me. But so that could be you, just the first step, figuring it out, having that breaking moment, figuring out what you need to do. What change do you need to make? Your change could be ending a relationship. That was also a change I had to make. I had to end a relationship. I had to leave friends. I had to give up certain activities that I like to do. Like going out and drinking and all that fun stuff that just didn't serve me anymore. It was fun while I did it, but that's just where I am. But yeah, but just know it's for a reason. God's not just out here punishing you because it's change has to happen, and it's going to be scary, but we going to get through this. Okay. I want us to think about something here. I didn't even talk about what it means to move forward. So the adjective of moving forward is toward or at a place, point or time in advance. Onward, ahead. So forward. We want to move forward. If we keep looking back, how we know if we're moving forward? Because think about it. Like, I know me, if I try to look back at when I'm walking, I'll go from going straight to start going this way, to start going this way. Like, you can't move right. Like, you have to keep your mind and keep your eyes looking forward. I also want us to think about something, right? Think about a think about your car, right? You have a big window in the front and a small mirror, a smaller mirror for the to look behind you, right? Why do you think that is? Because if you're driving and you constantly look at that little mirror and keep looking behind you, you're probably going to crash. You're probably going to hit someone, hit a tree, hit something. The point of this is there's a reason even in the car that your big window is bigger than your small window to look in the back, because 9 times out of 10 when you're driving, you need to look forward, look where you're going so that you can see safety concerns. You know when to stop, you know when to go. You see someone, you stop. You see the green light, you see the red light. You could turn, you know what to do. But if I think about it, when we look back in that little mirror, when we look in the little mirror, or if we look back, it's for a split second usually, unless we're reversing. But even then, like, there's a reason for that, because if we spend so much of our lives reminiscing on the past and what could have been and who left, how do we focus on and prepare and see what's happening now or what's gonna happen? Because it's even now when I look back to 2-3 years ago when all that was happening to me, I couldn't see this. I didn't see this. All I could feel was my heart breaking. All I could feel was the depression. All I could feel was the anxiety. All I could feel was the distress and the hurt and everything, the confusion. That's all I could see in that moment. But it's in those moments that we still press forward, day by day, little by little, pressing forward, little by little, pressing forward, little by little, to get to where you need to be. There's a reason, there's a reason in our cars. Like I said, we could tie this into driving. We see the big mirror, we see the big window and the small mirror. We're constantly looking forward driving so we know where to go. We have to constantly look forward, constantly see what God's doing, constantly look forward so that you could see where, do you need to stop here? Do you need to go? Is that person supposed to be in my life? Let me ask, But if we keep looking back and keep reminiscing on, oh man, I missed them. Oh man, we can't see what's happening now. Okay? There's just a reason. There's a reason why you're having your breaking moment. I want to say there's a reason why you are struggling what you're struggling with. It's in the things that we struggle with or we see others struggle that can propel us into where God needs us to be, right? I talked about this on one of my episodes. I had a brother who struggled with substance use, and he did overdose, unfortunately. And I had my own struggles with mental health, and I see how that propelled me to be in the profession that I'm in, as being a social worker, helping people constantly, whether they're struggling with drinking, whether they're struggling with mental health, whether they're struggling with drugs, whatever the case is, I love to help. And I love helping people not feel alone because of what I went through. So in those moments right now or in the past where you've seen yourself hurting or the people you love hurting, that could be the very thing that you help others in. And you might not see it now, but I'm here to tell you that could be the why. That could be the reason that could be what helps you get to where you need to be. You can help people that have gone through what you're going through, or you can help people that have gone through what your family or friends have gone through. Just don't give up. There's also a scripture that I wanted to share with us. It is Genesis chapter 19, verses 26. And just a little quick overview of what's happening is there's this town called Sodom and Gomorrah, and in Sodom there was a lot of wickedness, a lot of things going on that God did not like. And God sent two angels to Lot, who God was trying to get the angels to tell Lot to leave Sodom because God was going to destroy Sodom just because of all the wickedness, all the things that were going on. So the two angels told Lot and his family to leave. Specifically, in Genesis chapter 19 and 17, they said, and as they brought them out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape the hills, lest you be swept away." So that's what they were told. Do not look back. Go. Okay? So then Genesis chapter 19 and 26 says, "But Lot's wife behind him looked back." So sis did what the angel said don't do. So what happened? She became a pillar of salt. Just like that. I say that to say there's a reason that these things are in the Bible, because looking back is a distraction. It keeps us stuck on what was instead of focusing on what is and what can be, what God can do right now, what God can do with everything you went through. You know, it's so easy to just stay there and this, she turned into a pillar of salt because that's, God gave her orders not to. And that kind of just, and the way, reading it, it's like, almost like it seemed like she didn't have faith, right? God said leave, and it's like, wait, but no. Boom, pillar of salt. How many of us are doing that to God right now? I know I have, like, God, are you sure I should leave this job? Are you sure I should leave this relationship? But no, God knows what he's doing, right? And the more we look back and we keep, oh, God, but I missed them. Like, God, why? Like, are you sure? That shows that we don't have faith in God. That shows that we're more comfortable in our comfort zone and our past, and we're not willing to trust God in the new. Faith, we know what faith is. Faith is believing. Faith is the confidence and the evidence of things unseen. So faith is believing even when we don't see it. We don't see the house. We don't see what's next. We don't see why it's happening. But that's the thing. We don't see it, but we're trusting him. Trust. We know what trust is. Trust. We have to trust God. And when we look back and when we question God and when we do these things, that shows that we have a lack of faith in him. And it's not easy, like point blank period, but that's why faith is faith. We have to believe. It's the confidence. It's knowing that it's going to happen. It's knowing that God knows better for me than myself. It's knowing that I'm going to get through this, even though I don't see it. I have no evidence. I had no evidence 3 years ago that I was really going to get better. I just knew I didn't feel good, but I had to trust that something was happening, that God's got me, that there's more to life than what I'm going through right now. So I wanted us to think about that. The next time we question God, the next time we keep going back to what God to what we were taken out of, right? To what we have grown out of. I want us to think about this verse. I want us to think about Lot's wife looking back and turning into the pillar of salt and what that represents, not trusting God, trusting that old us and the familiar things more than we trust God's new, more than we trust God's path, more than we trust where God is guiding us and taking us. Like I said, looking back is a distraction. The enemy wants to distract us. The enemy does not want us to know God's plan for us. The enemy does not want us to trust God. He wants to do anything to distract us. So find it not strange that, you finally made a decision and you're moving in the right step, and then there goes that person texting you like, hey, like, let's go. Or the job reaching out like, hey, are you sure I can give you more money when God clearly said you need to leave? Or, whatever the case is, a distraction is to prevent us from moving in the right direction. I think of it as like a big old boulder in a road. Like, like you have to detour around. Like it takes you away from the straight path. Distractions keep us away from that path that God's taken us, away from that direction, away from the blessings that God have for us. And, it's hard to see distractions sometimes. It isn't until we get closer with God and we ask Him to help us to see them. Because now looking back, I see how there were so many distractions that I had, but I thought they were blessings, or I thought they were just what they were supposed to be. But it wasn't until I got in the Word and understood what a distraction is and what God's trying to do in my life. And anything that contradicts what God's trying to do is distracting me. It's taking me away from that. So, I'm getting myself off track. So we talked about what it is, how it can prevent us, Now let's talk about some steps. I always like to add steps because we want to know how can we move forward, right? So steps to move forward in our healing journey. We have to be aware in everything. If we're not aware that it's happening, if we're not aware that we are stagnant, if we're not aware that we keep going back to the old thing, the old behaviors, keep going back to that cussing mentality, keep going back to those people, we won't move. I did an episode, I don't remember what it was called, but where I talked about becoming aware as being the first step in anything. Because if we're not aware, then we won't think it's a problem, right? And so we have to be aware that we're even stuck. We have to be aware that we keep looking back. We keep entertaining things we shouldn't. We have to be aware that it's even happening, for one. Then I want us to try to find the root. Why do we feel like we have to go back? Why do we feel like we have to go back to what's comfortable? We have to go back to those friends. We have to go back to that job. We have to go back to that type of language that we outgrew. Why do we feel like that? I want us to do some deep searching. Why do we feel like we have to go back to those things? Because there's a reason, right? And it could be simple, like it was comfortable. It's all I knew. I loved them. I liked them. I like that. Like, figure out why you keep going back. So become aware of it. Figure out the root problem. Why? There's a reason we feel comfortable where we are. There's a reason we feel comfortable doing that still, And, obviously with any type of change and growth, we're going to have days where we want to go back. We're going to have days where we do go back. We are humans. But if we keep seeing the cycle and we keep feeling stuck, I want us to just think about why. Are you comfortable there? Did you find your identity there? Are your loved ones there? That's something that I just want us to think about. Another way that we can move forward in our healing journey, therapy. I think everyone should have to go to therapy because we all go through things. And the thing is, traumatic events, they affect everyone differently. That's one thing I've learned in this journey, is that someone can go through the same thing I go through and not find it traumatic or not find it trauma to them at all. But that doesn't mean that my trauma is invalid. So I'm here to tell you right now, if there's something that you're going through and your family say, get over it, that's nothing, I went through this, or you should be all right. If it hurt you, it hurt you. If it's trauma to you, it's trauma to you. If it's a trigger to you, it's trigger to you. Validate those feelings, because sometimes we get in a comparison of that's nothing. Okay, it might be nothing for you, but it was something for me. So with therapy, it helps you to even figure out, what is your trauma? Do you even know? Because everyone goes through stuff in this world. Like, we live in a sinful world that we all go through something. Whether, you're affected by social media, you might see something on social media. You might have experienced it maybe not directly, but indirectly, people around you have gone through things traumatically. Like, we all go through stuff that it's okay to seek help. It's okay. Sometimes people think therapy is just about bad. Maybe you have a big idea and you need help processing it. And maybe the therapist can help you figure out a game plan on how to navigate, because you want to be a little bit more organized. Like, they really help. Therapists help with so many things. So moving forward, maybe go to therapy. I know that was a big game changer for me. It helped me to even figure out that I had trauma. I was that person. I was like, nah, nothing like bad like that happened. But it doesn't have to be nothing bad like that. I think we think of like abuse, sexual abuse and stuff like that. But there's a thing called emotional abuse. There's a thing called mental abuse, right? Like, things happen to us that if we're in homes that it's not validated or talked about, we won't know. So I encourage you in this journey to move forward, go to therapy. The therapist can maybe help you figure out why you keep going back to the same. Why do you keep cycling with the same relationships, the same friendships, the same type of jobs, the same environments? What's hurting you? What is that root cause? What's happening? What happened to you that's continuously happening to you? One thing I've learned also is something that happened to us at 10, if we don't heal from it, we can be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and still show up as that 10-year-old who's hurt, right? We see it. We can see it in relationships. We can see it in friendships. We can see it in jobs. We can see it anywhere where that traumatic thing that happened to us at a young age is still showing up. It's why you are a people pleaser. It could be why you are a workaholic. It could be why you're on drugs, struggling with drinking. Therapy helps you to figure that out. Another thing I want us to do is to heal our inner child. I did an episode about healing the inner child, and that was a game changer for me because there's so many things that little girl needed that she didn't get. She didn't get the validation. She didn't get I was mean to my inner child. I also did an episode about the negative inner critic. I have a negative inner critic. I'm very hard on myself. I'm very it's got to be this way. If you don't get here, then too bad. Like, work harder tomorrow. I've came a long way, guys. But I had to heal that little girl who went through all that, who went through that pressure. And, that comes from childhood. That could come from your parents being hard on you. That can come from the demands of others on you, right? And healing the inner child might help you to move forward because you might be stuck in that 10-year-old mindset. You might be stuck in that 10-year-old way of thinking, even though you're 30 years old, right? So therapy will help that. And heal that inner child. If you need more information on that, I did an episode about healing the inner child. There's a book that I read that really helped me, where I talked about it on that episode. So if that's where you need to start, pause this. We're almost done, but pause it. Go listen, and you can come back. Okay? And another thing that will help us move forward, find scriptures for the root of that problem, right? So if you're struggling with jealousy, if you're struggling with unforgiveness, if you're struggling with people pleasing, find scriptures for it. Because let me tell you, this is the GPS. This is the way that we should live. Everything, and this is something that helped me, is realizing that I'm not the only one. There's so many things that I thought I struggled with, that I was the only one that struggled with it. So, finding that community helped me. But reading in the Bible, I was like, oh, there's people that struggled with many things. Pride, idolizing things over God, lust, all these things that I thought I'm the only one that struggles with it. That's why this is here to help. So I would try to find scriptures, whether you're a people pleaser, it's in here. You're struggling with lust, it's in here. You're struggling with forgiving someone. You're bitter, you're angry, in here. Definitely. All that's in here. So I encourage you to find scriptures for the root of the problem. And I just hope that these things will help propel you, because there's a reason that the enemy is distracting you. There's a reason that the enemy doesn't want you to move forward. He wants you to stay stuck. He wants you to stay looking back as you're moving, keep looking back like, oh man, why? I think the only reason that if I do look back, it's usually looking back and seeing what God's done. So for example, 3 years ago, even though I was sitting and crying and hurting, I see that God's hand was still there. He led me to the right therapist so I can get the help I needed. He led me to having sessions with my pastor so I can get the spiritual help I needed. He led me to the right people that I could talk about, the right podcast, the right people that I looked at on like YouTube that could relate to what I was going through. So when I look back, if I do look back, I try to look back and see where God has helped me, because that's going to be your receipt. That's going to be your evidence that God is with you through it all. That even though I have a problem right now, even though I'm struggling right now, hold on a minute. I can look back 3 years ago. God helped me with something similar. God helped me get through it then. He's going to help me get through it now. And I think if we're looking back, that's the only reason to look back, to see what God's done and see what he's going to continuously do. Like he helped me get through that breaking moment. He's going to help me get through whatever else comes my way, because I have evidence that happened to me. So I want to leave you with that. I really hope that this is helpful to you. And I hope that you realize that, one, it's normal. It's normal to be stuck. It's normal to miss the old, because it was what we knew for one at one point in our life. It was comfortable. So it's normal. I want to normalize. It's normal. We're human beings. But we have to do the work to keep moving forward, because there's a reason that God's moving you in the direction he's moving you. Don't give up, guys. There's a reason for it all. And the next time you find yourself pondering on the past and what you miss, try the steps that I given you, and hopefully it helps you. Get in the word, go to therapy, heal that inner child, find the root. Why is it happening? And definitely become aware of it, of course. So that's all I got for you, and if you want to look back on all God has done for you, all the times he showed up even when you didn't think he did. So in closing, thank you guys for joining me. This is the first ever video. So excited. Guys, it has been something trying to get this together, from trying to figure out where to go, the right equipment, the right software. That's a whole episode of all the distraction, all the things that has come up so that I couldn't get this out to you guys. But one thing about me, I'm really resilient, and I'm going to do what God's called me to do, okay? So, in closing, I want you to know you're not alone in this journey. You're not. If you're struggling, I've been there. Some days I'm still there. It's going to be all right. And if you like this video, or if you like listening to me, please share this. Share this with someone that you think it could help. Family member, friend, cousin, coworker. Share this so that other people can hopefully get the healing and the hope and the joy and whatever else it brings you. Hopefully they can get it as well, okay? Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. I can say that now. And, I will talk to you guys soon. I do have homework for you, though. It's good homework, I promise. It's the family-based therapist in me. I want you to write down why you keep looking back. Why do you keep seeing the same cycle? Why are you stagnant? Why do you keep looking back on the old things? What is keeping you there? Comfort, fear, love, trauma, finances? It could be those, it could be others. I encourage you to journal that, or write it on your notes, whatever, and just figure out why. What's the reason, And until then, I will see you guys next month. I'm so happy, and I hope that this was helpful to you. Mwah. See you guys next month. Bye.